Hi, Year 10. Just a few things about your assessment task and ways in which you can actually think about starting to prepare for writing it. What you need to be doing at this point is looking specifically at this question here, this section. This is where you start. You're starting with the relationship between humans and their environment and the complexity of that relationship. That's where you need to hinge your thesis. What do you want to say about Of Mice and Men in terms of that complexity? And what do you want to say about Into the Wild in terms of that complexity? And by complexity of relationship, we talk about the fact that there's an impact on the self and we impact on the environment. So the environment impacts on us, we impact upon it. We have our will upon it. But it seems in both of these texts that there is a sense that these characters are pushed and pulled in many directions by their environment. They don't necessarily own all of their own decisions. Their decisions are forced. There's a hand at work against them, be it the environment, be it the way in which other characters are dealing with them, or whatever at that level. And that is where I need the essay to be considered. So the first thing you do is how have composers, how is all about the techniques of the composers, the writers. So the first thing we talk about is John Steinbeck's writing and particularly his use of imagery. So his use of imagery in those opening excerpts and the closing excerpt is where you need to start analysing. So we come back here and we have a look at this particular little passage. On the few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the hillside bank and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped twinkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foothill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gabilan Mountains, but on the valley side the water is lined with trees, willows fresh and green with every spring carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter's flooding, and the sycamores with mottled, white, recumbent limbs and branches that arch over the pool. Here we have a description of a natural world that seems to have its own identity, seems to have a sense of what it is as a self. It's very much like the way we describe something like the Garden of Eden. There is a space here that's its own universe, and you'll note that it is something that's fluid and changing. It deals with things like floods and rains, but there is a natural order to all of that. Okay, we get a couple of more images as it goes through and you can discuss those, but at the end you get this very interesting moment. The limb is worn smooth by men who have sat on it. There is an impact that we have on the environment. There is a way in which we have changed things. There's an ash pile made by many fires. We do get a sense that the human condition and the natural condition are intertwining and are connected. If the limb is worn smooth by the men who have sat on it, we're able to change things. If there is ash made by many fires, we are part of that transformation in the same way that the rabbits and all these other creatures are part of the transformation. And we get to learn a bit more about that when we see the connection that a character like Lenny has to the rabbits and everything like that. He understands, or he feels connected to those animals because he feels that they, like him, are part of that sort of natural ebb and flow of things. As we get to the last part of it, we go back to that pool, but this time around we get this water snake, which is very much an Eden-like image based on the whole serpent thing, foreshadowing what's going to occur later. The far rush of wind and a gust drove the trees like the waves, so there still is that fluidity, that movement, and another water snake swimming up the pool, turning its periscope head from side to side. There's an element of danger, but there's also an element of the fact that the natural world is now changed for us. Now, your essay is permitted to talk about other parts of the novel, and well, it should. It is not necessarily a good thing just to talk about the bits and pieces that we've given you in an in-class essay. You need to show that you've read and studied the particular book. And one area that I find interesting is bringing in the Crooks-Lennie moment, which is central to the film version and is central to the novel. And I've highlighted this bit here where Crooks says, I've seen hundreds of men come by on the road and on the ranches with their bindles on their back and the same damn thing in their heads. Hundreds of them. They come and they quit and go, and every damn one of them's got a little piece of land in his head. And never a goddamn one of them ever gets it, just like heaven. Everybody wants a little piece of land. I read plenty of books out there, and so he goes, talking about the fact that our relationship with the environment is hinging on the fact that we want to control and own it, but we never can, because the environmental world, as we've learnt from the pool and everything at the beginning, is transformative. It transforms itself. It's its own creature and character. All these plans will go awry because in the end, our relationship with the environment is complex. The other thing that's important is thinking about the built environment of Crooks's space and how that alienates him from the rest of the men. So you can talk about the fact that a built environment or the natural environment can give you a sense of ownership or a sense of alienation. Okay? So these sort of moments are what you need to think about in terms of what matters with this particular text. Of course, once that's done, we'll have a look at the film and see what you can do with that.